Yo, what's going on? Welcome. So I was recently on a bit of a road trip and it gave me a really great chance to just listen to a bunch of music, catch up on some stuff that I haven't heard in a while. I was listening to my Japanese city pop playlist. I'm a super big fan of it, and while I was listening, I just thought some of this stuff would be so fun to chop up and make a beat out of. So that's exactly what we're gonna do today. Got the MPC 1000. Shout out to my boy Adam who helped me acquire this machine. What's up? I'm thinking we can do some kind of boom bap type of thing, so no messing around today. Let's get right into it. So the sample that we're going to be using today is by an artist named Cindy. This song is crazy. If you haven't heard it yet, I'm going to have a link down in the description to a video of the track. And if you haven't heard it, just stop this video right now and go listen because you'll be doing yourself a favor. But this is a 8-bar sample, I believe. I chopped it up really simple with just quarter note chops, kick, snare type of thing. Here's a little taste of how it sounds. So a lot to work with. As you can hear, it's a little bit quick. This would actually be sick to use for a house beat as well, but I'm really feeling something slower right now that we can just kind of vibe to and chill. So the first thing I'm definitely going to want to do with this is slow down the sample. So let's hop into the program editor and we'll get to it. So right now I'm on the program. The first thing I'm going to do is just go to the first pad, pad 1 on bank A. The sample's on 2 banks, by the way. And we're already on tune, so I'll just go to shift and then all. That allows you to select every single pad within the program. I used to do all of them separately, which would have taken forever, but if you just do shift and then all, it will highlight everything. And then I will lower that down. Let's see what it sounds like. Yeah, I think that sounds sick. And by the way, whether you're doing tune, level, anything, if you do the shift all, you can do them all at once rather than having to go through each individual sample and spin this wheel endlessly, which I'm sure we've all done. So let's figure out what the BPM is going to be of this beat. What I do to figure that out is I tap through the pads on the sample now that I have it at the speed that I like. And while I'm hitting the pads, I'm also hitting the tap tempo button. So that's going to give us a good idea of what the tempo is going to be up there in the top left. So let's try it. It looks like it's hovering somewhere around 85.5. I usually just round up to make sure that there's no silent spaces between our chops once we have that BPM set. So I'm just going to do 86. And let's lengthen this pattern a little bit. We'll go to 4 bars rather than 2. And of course we'll want to loop that as well so it doesn't just end after every single time we play the pattern. So let's just play around a little bit, see if we can come up with a pattern to use. I think the sample is really going to lead this. It already has so much going for it. I don't think we'll have to do anything too insane with it, but we'll add in our characteristics in the drums. So let's get to it. We'll see if we can find a pattern. Okay, I think that pattern sounded pretty sweet, so let's go ahead and lay that down. So let's start getting some of those hard-hitting boom bap drums on this beat. So I'm going to go into track 2. One thing I mentioned previously is when I'm using the 1000, I always like to do the drums on separate tracks. I think the reason I started doing that is because when you're in the track mute feature of the 1000, it's nice just to be able to go into that mode and hit a pad to take out the kick, hit a pad to take out the hi-hats, and it just makes it a little bit more fun to jam on. So I'm going to do that for this beat as well. So let's start with the snare. I have a bunch of drums loaded up onto program 1. But let's just start with laying down that snare. I'm going to do the snare quantized. That way we can unquantize or change up some of the other drums, but we'll still have that one drum that's going to be really constant and kind of keeping our time. So I'm just going to play the beat and let's see what snare sounds nice with this. I kind of like that quick snap. Let's record it. So let's go on to a new track like I mentioned. Let's mess around with the drums a little bit more and see what will work well for the next piece. I think I want to record the hi-hat next because I want to do a 16th note pattern rather than a typical 8th note. But rather than doing this completely unquantized, let's actually turn up the swing on this. So we'll want to be at 16th notes and then maybe 56. It's not too high, but it will still be noticeable. So I'll close and let's put that on 16 levels. I think something like that pattern will sound nice. One reason I actually like using one hand to do 16th notes on the 1000 is because I'm so used to using the MPC 1, these pads aren't quite as sensitive, so sometimes it won't register a hit, and it adds a little bit of life to it because it's as if we're skipping a note, and sometimes it sounds kind of sick. So let's lay down that hi-hat beat and see what happens. We'll let the machine do its work. See what I mean? You can see in the first bar and the second bar, 2 of the hi-hat hits were actually missed just because I didn't hit it hard enough for it to register, and that was not intentional. But now we have this sort of variable hi-hat pattern where it doesn't just have the constant clicking, it has a little bit of that character. Now that we have the snare and hi-hat, we'll definitely want to add in some kick to this, and like I mentioned earlier, we have the snare super quantized, and we technically have the hi-hat quantized too, just with the swing. So I'm going to unquantize the kick for sure. And one thing I'm feeling with this beat too, when you have kind of such a simple, we didn't do too much of a chop change, it's a pretty slow beat as well. Sometimes it's nice to kind of go pretty hard with the kick, rather than doing just a few hits. You can really kind of feed into it a little bit, and it won't completely overpower the beat. So let's mess around with the kick drum a little bit. We'll want to make a new track just so we have that separate. But first let's see what kick we want to use, and then we can maybe use a little bit of a busy pattern. Let's try it out. I like that sound. But yeah, in a typical beat, I would usually do something like this. So it's not too many kicks, but one thing you can also do is just while you're kind of jamming around and figuring out what pattern you want, try really leaning into the kick if you have a bit more of a simple beat to start. So let's see how that might sound. I think I'm just going to kind of improvise and see what happens. And if it doesn't work, we'll just re-record it. So I'll go to time correct, turn that off, and let's see what we can come up with, see what happens. don't mind that, but I don't love the second bar. So let's just undo that and then let's try again, because I just didn't love it. One thing I find when I'm trying to lay down a pattern and I'm not loving what is coming out, I kind of catch myself looking at the screen, trying to fill in the blanks on the sequence. It's like, oh, I have to do so many hits in this square, so many in that square. So I literally just will look away from the machine. I know where the kick pad is, so I don't need to be staring at the pad or thinking about it. I just kind of look away, and really just let myself live in the beat. So I'm just going to start doing that. Yeah, I'm into that. Okay, I'm liking the vibe of this beat. I'm getting a real summer feel out of it, which is nice because it's getting pretty cold where I'm at. But I think the next thing we should do, rather than just having this 4-bar loop, let's make another pattern. So it's not just that single sequence. We can copy over the drums, but we'll want just another sample chop pattern so that it sounds a bit more like a full song. So let's go to mode and then sequence edit. And if we go to bars, we should be able to copy first bar to the last bar, do that to sequence 2, copies 1, do it. And now, so we're in sequence 2, but we'll just want to, when you copy bars on the MPC 1000 or copy a sequence, it just puts the sequence in front of the default bars that are already there. So we copied a 4-bar sequence, there's now 6. That means that the last 2 bars are just going to be empty. It's a little bit odd, but we'll make that 4. And then similar to with the last sequence, we'll just want to turn on the loop on here so that it continues to play. And we'll want to update the BPM as well, which was 86? Yeah. Okay, sick. So now we go to track 1, which is where we had the sample chop. If we hit main again, it will take us to the step editor. If you go to shift and then all pad, it puts them all on the same level. That way you literally just hold down delete, scroll across all the bars, and all those chops are now going to be gone. So we should just be left with the drums. Okay, sick. So now that we have those drums playing, let's just mess around on the sample. We'll see if we can come up with another chop and a second sequence. So now that we have these patterns figured out, we've got the chop, we've got the drums, let's add some low end into this and get some bass going. What I'm wondering though is if we want to use a synth, just use a sample, use a guitar, and the real question is, how lazy am I? And you know what, I already have some bass sounds saved on the MPC, so let's just load those into the program. And of course the only bass sounds I have saved on here are from my bass sample pack, which you can download for free. Link down below, $0. Or you can use the payment plan, 4 months, $0 a month, but credit check required. Let's just download something. I'm just gonna put my headphones on so I can hear this a bit better because the low end, these speakers aren't that great. So just to tame this a little bit, I want to filter the bass sound, but I'm going to do that after I record the bass for the second sequence because I want to make sure that I can hear it really prominently. So let's go into that second sequence, we'll record down the pattern, and then we'll filter it down a little bit. Let's do it. So now I'm going to go into mode, program, and then I'm going to go to filter. I want to turn that on to low pass filter. And now let's turn down the frequency a little bit. And then this is still definitely too loud, so I'm just going to turn it down. So we have that way in the background. It's not super noticeable, but I think it adds a little bit of body to it because we just get a little bit more of that low end. And again, usually if I was finishing a beat, I'd export everything to Ableton and do the bass there because I find there's just a little bit more capability than just using the pads to make a pattern. But if you're just jamming, then I really like using it. I'm liking where we're at. I think it's time to start adding some little spices, some secret sauces, and a few additional melodic elements to this. So let's take the first sequence. We'll make a copy of that, do the same thing with the second, and then we'll see if we can add some little specialties to it. And I really don't think we need to add the horn sample onto the first sequence we made. I'm into this one that we have here, and I think the first sequence sounds really nice on its own anyways. But I hope you liked how this beat turned out. I hope you had a good time chilling and just vibing with the MPC 1000. I certainly did. I really love chopping up the city pop, or it's a little bit later, so maybe you consider it J-pop, but it was a good time. Always good to see you. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you liked the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you want to. More beat making videos coming, and let me know in the comments what you want to see in a future video. Thank you so much for hanging out. Peace.